Well, welcome to this week's Time Out Tuesday, which is called Don't Look Back. You know, many of us read the Bible and we've memorized verses that are particularly meaningful to us. One such verse is Jeremiah 29:11. It says, "I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future." This is a verse that I include on cards that I send when somebody is going through a transition in their life, like a graduation from high school or college, a time when their future is uncertain. But it is important that we seriously ask ourselves, are we just reciting and writing these verses because they sound nice? Or do we believe that they are truly God's word to us and therefore true? And this caused me, don't ask me why, to think about Lot's wife. So the story behind Lot's wife is that God planned to send two angels to the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah to destroy them because he was tired of their continuous sin and immorality. But first, he sent these angels to warn Lot about what was about to take place the next day and that he and his family needed to evacuate like pronto. Lot's two son-in-laws, unfortunately, did not heed Lot's warning because they thought he was joking. But the angels were able to transport Lot and his wife and his two daughters out of the cities to safety. The angels also warned Lot and his family to not look back towards this town. And everyone obeyed that command, except for Lot's wife, who turned and looked back on the town and the life she was leaving. Some biblical scholars say with longing. And as a result, she was turned into a pillar of salt. Now, through Lot's wife, we learned that sometimes following God's will for our lives will force us out of our comfort zones. For example, it may cause us to have to make sacrifices that we're just unused to walk away from loved ones and or relocate, to leave an unholy environment, just as it did for Lot's wife. The thing about this, though, is that these things do not always come about easily. We humans are typically creatures of habit and comfort, preferring to take the path of least resistance. Therefore, in order to push us forward, God will sometimes allow chaos and sudden destruction to be let loose in our lives, just as happened with Sodom and Gomorrah, for he is forcing his young out of their safe place and ensuring that they spread their wings and learn to fly. Lot's wife reveals a little acknowledged truth that transitioning from one level to another is rarely smooth, and the change from one season to the next is often filled with trials. However, despite the hardship and emotional turmoil that this can cause, God expects us to move forward, keep our eyes fixed on him and the prize. He doesn't want us to look back and mourn what was, like Lot's wife did. That takes faith to believe that God's thoughts are not evil or harmful towards you, but that he wishes above all to establish you well. Now, what about us? Instead of asking God why, we need to ask God what. For example, what could this turmoil that I'm currently going through be trying to push me toward? What is God trying to produce in me? What is the testimony that I am going to have at the end of the situation? One that will encourage other people going through the same trial. Once we figure that out, We need to commit it to prayer and start taking steps towards that positive outcome. And above all, don't look back. And that, my friends, is this week's Time Out Tuesday. And I do hope to see you all next week. God bless you all.